everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So today's video is going to be about some of the January releases that I'm excited about. So I'm like a little behind in my booktube filming, I guess. I need to obviously talk about the January releases, need to do my December wrap up, and then like January mid-month wrap up, and then like all of my favorites of the year. So we may just have like some 2019 favorites that I'm talking about in late January, but you know, what can you do? Let's see, aside from that, I did just start a Bookstagram account if you want to follow me there. You can find my username in the description below, but it's just krakentoagoodbook, all one word. I'm not like the most talented, I guess, at taking pictures or the most creative or whatever, but you know, it's fun. I also want to point out that I do in fact have a Release the Kraken shirt that I found in Maui last year, and like obviously I had to have it. It has tentacles on the arms, so that's exciting. January isn't as full, I guess, of the whole bunch of releases, but I do have 10 of them to talk about with you today, so let's jump right in. So obviously, since I'm like filming and posting this a little late, some of these books have already come out. But we'll start with January 7th and work our way through the end of the month. But the first book I'll talk about here is The Night Country by Melissa Albert. So this is the sequel to The Hazelwood, which came out maybe last year, I'm not sure. Now, The Hazelwood seems to be kind of polarizing. I really liked it, but I know some others didn't. The premise behind The Hazelwood is like Alice, the main character, discovers that her grandmother has died, and she was the author of The Hazelwood, which is like a collection of really dark fairy tales. Then Alice's mother gets stolen by somebody claiming to be from the hinterland, which is like the evil magical realm, I guess, that her grandmother's stories are based in. Her mother's like, stay away from the Hazelwood. But, you know, obviously Alice wants to get her mother back, so she goes to the Hazelwood and finds out things, and there's like a lot of dark fairy tale goodness happening. I don't really want to spoil what happens in the Hazelwood, but the Night Country is like obviously continuing the story, and I think some fairy tale stuff is going to spill over into the real world. I expect this is going to have more of like the same dark fairy tale storytelling, I guess. I have seen some kind of like meh reviews on it and saying like, why was this really necessary? So I'm a little nervous about it, but I think I'll still pick it up because I did enjoy The Hazelwood so much. The next book that I'll talk about that comes out on January 7th, or has already come out, I guess, is The Vanishing by Jane Ann Krentz, I think. This is the start of a romantic suspense trilogy, I think. Now, I've never read anything by her before, so I don't know how her books are, but this sounded pretty interesting. The premise here is that in this town called Fog Lake, there was some sort of explosion in some caves that released unknown gases. Ooh. And then this caused, I guess, the residents of this town to sleep for 2 days. And then they discovered that, like, they've changed in some way. So some of them have visions, others are hearing voices. Then I guess some, like, mysterious government agency goes to investigate. These residents, like, don't want to be studied, and they're like, oh, it's food poisoning. Clearly something was going on, and so the descendants of these people are having, I assume, some powers. So then I think our main characters are best friends and use their abilities to solve cases, but one of them vanishes one night, and so the other character is like trying to find her. And then there's some sort of like killer hunting the witnesses to a murder that happened in Fog Lake when this cave situation happened, I guess. But yeah, so like that sounds really fun. That sounds like a premise that I would really enjoy. I'm a big fan of books that have like, you know, people with powers solving cases or whatnot. So I'm excited for that. I hope it's good. Also on January 7th is Throw Like a Girl by Sarah Henning. So this is one that I'm like kind of undecided about, but I just love the premise so much, and like it's a little bit outside of my comfort zone, I guess. I don't read a whole lot of YA romance, but the main draw here for me is that the main character is a softball player. Basically what happens here is that the main character, who again is the softball player, evidently like punches somebody during a game, and so she loses her scholarship to this like private school that she's going to. And like, I guess her boyfriend maybe breaks up with her, and then obviously she loses her teammates on the softball team. So she has to transfer to a public school. She's trying to convince the coach of the softball team that she deserves to play. And I think she's like dealing with a lot of the fallout of what happened, because I think the girl that she punched may be on the team of the public school. I'm not exactly sure. But then we have what is likely to be the love interest, I think, who is the like star quarterback of the football team. He is injured and wants our main character to like replace him temporarily. And so he's like, well, if you do this, then I'll make sure you get a spot on the softball team. So I mean, that sounds kind of cute and charming and silly. So I really hope it's good. I don't read much YA romance, but this one sounded kind of up my alley. The next book that has already come out on January 7th is Oasis by Katia de Becerra. So this is, I think, like a YA sci-fi. And it's like perfect for fans of Lost and the Twilight Zone. So I do like the Twilight Zone, and I never actually watched Lost for whatever reason. But anyway, or actually, this may be a YA thriller. So our main character, I guess, is like working with her father at an archaeological dig in the desert with some friends. But then like a sandstorm hits. The camp gets wiped away, and they're kind of lost in the desert until they find this mysterious oasis. Has like all the things they need, you know, like food, water, shade, and then there's some sort of mysterious ruins that have a deadly secret, and then like reality starts to kind of get wonky, I think, around them, and they're like, what's real versus what's a mirage? Our main character and her friends kind of turn against each other. Sorry about I don't know what my neighbors are doing. They're just like hitting on the wall for some reason. It's like, well, it was easy to walk into the oasis. It may be impossible to leave. So that sounds super awesome. I really hope it's good because that premise is so cool. So now we move to January 14th. So the first book I'll talk about here is A Beginning at the End by Mike Chen. So this is like a kind of apocalyptic thriller type book. We have some sort of global pandemic, and 6 years after this occurs and like most of the population has been wiped out, the survivors are trying to like rebuild and, you know, move on. So I guess we've got a variety of like self-governing cities, hippie communes, and then sort of like wasteland, I don't know, wasteland type cities, which like kind of reminds me of Mad Max. I don't know if that's actually what they mean, but that's like what I have in my mind. So we're like in this post-apocalyptic San Francisco. A former pop star has like created a new identity for herself in order to escape her past, but then her like, it says her domineering father finds her. And then we have some sort of like jaded event planner who is like, it says navigates the world on behalf of those who are like too traumatized to go outside. And then we have another character who survived with his daughter, but his wife didn't make it. I guess the government is like threatening to take away his daughter, so he has to like prove that he's capable of like connecting with people again. So I think all of these characters like end up joining together and their stories intertwine. And then there's like reports of another outbreak and everybody's panicking. So these people are like forced to face, you know, like everything that's happened and what's currently happening. It's like, because sometimes having one person is enough to keep the world going. So that sounds really awesome. I think you all know how much I love books that have some sort of disease element. So I'm definitely going to pick this one up. So next on January 14th is Brenda Dark by S.A. Hunt. So this is, I think, like a YA fantasy, maybe? Maybe it's not YA, I'm not sure. This is pitched as like a horror adventure action series, and it's about a punk YouTuber on a mission to bring down witches. So that sounds awesome. I think it's really funny, you know, now that I'm on BookTube, to like see books where people are also YouTubers. So that's kind of like part of why I'm drawn into this, but like it also sounds awesome. The main character is a YouTube celebrity, and she's gotten famous on her like very realistic witch hunt videos. But then, you know, it's like her followers don't actually know that this is not entirely fiction. So we're actually hunting down some witches. So she's seeking revenge against this group of witches who have somehow wronged her mother years ago. She's returning home and like meeting up with friends who are both old and new on her quest to seek justice. And then we have some sort of threat known as the Red Lord who is interfering with her plans. And that's like kind of all it says. But that sounds great. I hope it's good. All right, so now we move to January 21st, and the first book I'll talk about here is Bitter Falls by Rachel Kane. So this is going to be, I think, the fourth book in the Stillhouse Lake series. I think I've talked about these before on my channel, but they're like a thriller type series where in the first book, our main character learns that her husband is like a serial killer, and so there's like a whole bunch of fallout from that, and people are accusing her and her children of like knowing about his kills and taking part in it, and like, you know, they're like, oh, you're his accomplice, and she's like, no, I'm really not. But then, you know, there's like a lot of, I guess, creepy internet people who like stalk her and her children and are are threatening her. So she like moves away to Stillhouse Lake. She starts getting threatening letters at this new place because people have tracked her down. A body turns up in the lake. So there's like a lot of suspense. It's a thriller. It's a really great premise. I love this series, so I'm excited to pick this one up. You know, like I don't want to spoil too much of what's happened. The main character is essentially like trying to move forward and is like, actively like trying to solve cold cases. So you see a lot of like character development over time. But I assume we'll still have more of the same sort of stuff where people are like, you know, trying to track her down and send her like threatening things and whatnot. But I'm very excited about this. I think it's gonna be great. I love this series, like I said, so it's definitely one that I would recommend checking out. Also on January 21st is A Queen in Hiding by Sarah Kozloff, I think. So this is kind of interesting. There's going to be 4 books in the series, and a book is going to be released each month. So it'll be, you know, like book 1 is obviously January, book 2 February, book 3 March, and book 4 April. So I'm kind of intrigued by this kind of like publishing schedule because, you know, obviously we're going to get all of them in a short amount of time, and like, you know, so if it's good, you could like kind of binge read it fairly quickly. But anyway, so this is a fantasy series. So our main character is a princess, and she's been orphaned, exiled, and hunted, and so she has some sort of magic that she's trying to learn how to control. And then I guess she's going to become like a guerrilla fighter and try to transform into the queen that she's meant to be. In order to do this, she has to gain some sort of favors from various spirits who play in mortal affairs, it says. And then we're gonna like, you know, group together some rebels and actually like seize the throne back. So, you know, the description here is a little not super detailed, but what I see I like, and again, like I'm really intrigued by this release schedule, so hopefully it'll be good. Also on January 21st is Layover Land by Gabby Noon. So this is, I think, a YA book. So this is kind of like a book about the afterlife, but I've seen it kind of described as like for fans of The Good Place, which I love. So that's kind of like what intrigued me here. But basically, you know, our main character is like deserves to go straight to hell. Her last day on Earth, she evidently ruined the life of her little sister, and then like has some sort of fatal car accident. Then she wakes up on this airplane going who knows where. And then I guess like once they land, she finds out that she's in purgatory. And in order to catch a flight to heaven, she has to help 5,000 souls figure out like what's keeping them from moving on. I guess one of her first assignments is the guy who caused her car accident. So like naturally, I think that's going to cause some tension because she probably doesn't want to help him out. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some romance because, you know, it mentions like she's totally falling for him even though, you know, she should hate him, I guess. But this sounds really funny. It sounds cute. Again, just like the connection, or I guess pitched as like for fans of The Good Place, that like really drew me in. So I'm excited for this one. So the last book I'm going to talk about is the only one actually of this list that comes out January 28th, but that is Diamond City by Francesca Flores. So this, I think, is about a female assassin type character. Her main character has some sort of blood magic, and her parents are murdered, so she takes a job as an assassin in order to survive, and then she kind of like has this found family, I think, unwanted and forgotten. Her boss, who is kind of brutal and cold and has questionable morals, but, you know, ultimately does provide a place for people who have nowhere to go, but like kind of, I think, doesn't let them leave. So our main character says something about like having to win a game of murder and conspiracy. That sounds fun. It's, you know, romance, blood magic, action, female assassin, like all of these components are quite intriguing to me. So, you know, I'm pretty sure I've heard good reviews about this one. So I am also very excited for that. So there are 10 books coming out in January that I'm like particularly excited about. There are obviously others that are coming out that I'm like kind of intrigued about, but didn't feel like I was, you know, fully gung-ho about them to mention them in this video. But, you know, obviously there's plenty of other books I'm sure that are coming out that I'm just like not aware of. But I think these ones are going to be particularly exciting. Let me know down in the comments if you think you might pick these up or think you might pick up other books that are coming out in January, and like, you know, let me know what they are. I hope you're having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up here and see you in the next one.